Who is ready to continue absolute cinema? A prime evening to all of you. I'm Thunderbird Prime, master of YouTuber, and tonight, hopefully we can finish Corpusant part 1.5 tonight. I'm looking at the corner, it says 38%. That doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence, but that's why we started a little bit early tonight. Because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 nodes. Hopefully, I've given myself ample time. Transcendent Violet. Only through destruction can one truly reach the far shore. Wait, what are you weak to? Ice? No problem. Alright. Where do we leave off? Yes, over here. Also, Alva has been kidnapped. Gilovag experimenting on her. Igla broke down through her neural barrier clouds. Her neural cloud barriers. And, mental attacks. You can hear the gunfire. I cut the connection and turned to Groza and Kolfe. Congratulations on getting first, Dora. You're officially the coolest member of chat tonight. Avoiding stray rounds from the firefight between the unknown forces and Squad 404, we rush up to the rooftop. We smash through the glass doors of the experimental complex and force our way inside. In the isolation chamber where Orphalune has demonstrated an experiment for me not long ago, a figure sits there blankly, knees hugged at her chest. Groza and Kodafe check the surroundings. No armed personnel are in sight. I stow my weapon inside my clothes and strike quickly toward that figure. Oh ho ho! You underestimate me, young lady. Her tone is harsh, but the panic and tears in Orphalune's eyes betray her true emotions. I hurry over to assess her condition. Though she's trembling all over, she doesn't appear to have any external injuries. Judging by her breathing, her internal organs likely weren't damaged by the explosion either. I extend my hand to Orphalune. After hesitating for a moment, she finally takes it and stands up. I am reading peak. You could even say it's absolute cinema. Despite her tough words, Orphalune almost drops the haphazard pile of data pads and test tubes in her arms. She bites her lip, trying to shoulder everything on her own. Her voice suddenly trails off, as if she's talking to herself. Yeah, that's what I thought in my 20s too. Yeah! If you can survive Frankfurt, you can survive anything. Orphalune's eyes flicker slightly, as though a memory has been stirred. Come with me if you want to live. I signal for Kodafe to take hold of Orphalune. This time, Orphalune obediently follows as Kodafe starts moving. But just as we reach the doorway, intense gunfire erupts from below, shots and explosions coming one after another. The firefight downstairs intensifies further, and several rifle grenades come flying toward the rooftop. Of all the numbers, did they really have to pick 6 million? Really? I shield Orphalune as we dive toward the doorway. One of the grenades hits the isolation chamber directly. The glass shatters, fragments hurtling towards us under the force of the blast. Orphalune cries out, her face strained as she tries not to show too much pain. I look down and realize that a shard of glass has lodged itself squarely in her leg. Kodafe picks up a pair of lab forceps and carefully pulls out the glass shard. Then she rinses the wound with distilled water and applies an adhesive bandage meant for emergency treatment. Tis but a scratch. It's been over 100 years in the lore. I think enough time passed. Still. Did Mika team really did they really think we wouldn't notice when they picked that number? Even as she says this, a small sob escapes Orphalune. She bites her lip hard, as if ashamed of her own weakness. We proceed with extreme caution toward the air raid shelter, while being targeted by successive explosions and attacks. Poor girl, too proud for her own good. I mean, she is the genius scientist of the Gerard group. That title comes with a lot of weight. Orphalune endures the pain along the way, still trying to maintain her pride. Orphalune's voice suddenly wavers with both nostalgia and unease. Orphalune rarely shows such helplessness, but she quickly straightens her back again. I look at her face, not quite sure how to feel. After passing through long corridors and descending flight after flight of stairs, we finally reach the air raid shelter entrance that Orphalune mentioned. During the journey, whenever her injured leg is jostled, Orphalune would grimace from the pain, only to quickly force herself to straighten up each time. She then fumbles awkwardly for quite a while before finding and pressing a button, opening the door at the entrance. The blast door made of half-meter thick homogeneous steel slowly swings open. Supporting Orphalune, we help her inside. As the heavy door closes, I issue orders to Group 2. Alright, time for cleanup. You want us to use ice? Look at this Darner Gate trying to do a sneak attack on us. I can't believe this. Alright, where's that jerk? There he is. The elite mechanist. Alright. You want ice? We'll give you ice. Alright, first... Cyclone! Torega! Or Joker! Game volume could be a bit louder. Okay, let's see. System settings... Oh, we got both of them. No worries. Cover mode. Alright. Who's next on the chopping block? Bye-bye. Square formation. Alright, do your worst, you silly little diner gates. Oh, they didn't even do anything. Wow. Can I position them? Not quite. Slide to the left. Uh-oh, they're doing a plan B. Uh-oh! Mama Bear is back! Do not engage. Do not get on the red side. Besides, Igla is on Orphalune's side. Let's not get on her bad side. The attackers seem to be withdrawn because they've also received news of Igla's return. Something is fishy about the Gerard group having such up-to-date information about the situation within the research facility. Igla is the lion. Commander is the small dog. Come on. At least make the commander a Doberman or something. There are emergency medical kits inside the shelter. Kodafe takes one and redresses Orphalune's wound. Orphalune nods in thanks to Kodafe, but she is still trembling. She's still clearly worried that the enemy will make their way here. I step forward to reassure her. Border Collie, come on. Give the commander some credit. Aren't you journalists? Yes, we are. We've covered wars. That's why we have guns. I can't believe she bought that. Huh. So what you're saying is, there's an information leak from the inside.
それはおかしいとは思いませんか。
どうして？リビウはずっと平和だったのよ。
So this attack was likely triggered by recent events. Is the goal to destroy the research, or are they coming after the young lady? If the young lady is the key figure in Project Eden, there are certainly no shortage of forces who'd want her gone.
指揮官、離脱しました。イグラが研究所に入りました。お気をつけて。
あ、
あなたたち、本当に記者なの？
Yes, but also.
さっきからのやりとり、どう見ても。
A sudden deafening crash interrupts Orphalune mid-sentence. Boom. Did she really punch through that meter-thick door? I believe it. The shelter's security door is blasted open with a massive hole. The tremendous impact twists and warps the heavy steel door. As the dust settles, Igla's figure appears in the doorway. The scabbard of the slender rapier at her waist gleams with subdued silver light, mirrored by the silver and gold pistol in her hand. Her posture is immaculate, not that of a doll who blasted through a steel door, but of an aristocrat stepping into an opera house. Igla raises her gun, aiming it directly at my head. Step by step, she walks slowly toward me.
ご観覧の最中に申し訳ありませんが、今すぐお嬢様から離れてください。これ以上お嬢様に不快な思いをさせるものなら強行手段に出ます。
Okay, we get the message. Loud and clear. Igla's voice is glacially cold. At my signal, Groza and Kodafe do not draw their weapons. I lock eyes with Igla, refusing to bend to her will. Orphalune's eyes glisten with joy, the composure she'd forced upon herself completely crumbling. Igla steps forward. The sound of her heels is clear and crystalline. She bows slightly, left hand to her chest, in a flawless gesture of courtesy. For the first time, Igla's voice wavers ever so slightly, though her near-perfect posture doesn't change. Guilt flashes across her face for an instant, swiftly replaced by resolute restraint. She drops to one knee, right hand to her chest, performing an impeccable oath of loyalty. Igla rises from the floor in one fluid movement. Her gaze settles on us again, with such icy, murderous intent, it sends a chill down my spine. Igla's tone remains gentle and courteous, yet carries an unmistakable finality. The furnace! Were you not listening to a single word that Orphalune was saying? Thank you! God! I love it when the protagonist agrees with me.
信頼を勝ち取るためとも考えられます。
そんなことして何になる？
この人たちは命を懸けて守ってくれた。それに私の人を見る目は確かよ。私が気に入ったのだから間違いないわ。
I don't know, Orphalune. You have Wish.com Agnes Tachyon as a quote-unquote friend. I'm not sure about your good judge of character. People forget the commander is a really smart man. He just has anger issues sometimes. Wow, he's literally me! Orphalune lifts her chin proudly, though the tension in the air makes her unconsciously clutch the hem of her clothes.
わかりました。お嬢様に免じて釈明の機会を与えて差し上げましょう。なぜ武器を持った戦術人形が付き添っているのですか、編集長。研究所の外でこそこそ隠れているネズミもそちらの手のものなのでしょう。
She actually noticed Group 2 monitoring the perimeter. As expected, she's not an easy opponent.
ファルベングループではないのなら、非軍事勢力管理局がその他ロレンの下部組織。
残念ながらそのどれでもありません。
では誰なのですか？
私は自分の目的で動いています。どこの勢力にも所属していません。
お嬢様、お聞きになりましたか？やはり信用できない相手です。決してもよろしいですね。
でも
近頃の情勢からオルフェルーネさんに危険が及ぶかもしれないと思ったので戦術人形を連れ込みました。そして事実、彼女たちのおかげで襲撃者を撃退しオルフェルーネさんは助かりました。まさか私たちと襲撃者の違いがわからないなんてことはありませんよね。
もしかして最初から私を守るためにここへ。
Igla frowns. Though she wants nothing more than to kill us immediately, there's no changing Orphalune's mind about this. Orphalune raises a hand, signaling Igla to stay her hand. As her attendant, Igla cannot disobey her order.
はい、それも目的の一つです。もう一つはオルフェルーネさんに私の本当に聞きたい質問に答えていただくためです。
本当に聞きたい質問？
I ignore the rapier pointing at me and ask Orphalune in unmistakably firm voice.
オルフェルーネさん、楽園計画の本質はおそらく発表されたものとは違うのでは？
何を言ってるの？楽園計画についてならさっき見せたものが全てよ。
あなたは確か研究にあたって技術援助を受けたとおっしゃいましたね。それは誰から受けたのか教えていただけませんか？
Igla's posture shifts subtly, a sharp edge flashing in her eyes. She steps forward half a pace, the sound of her heels echoing clearly in the shelter.
お嬢様にそのような質問にお答えする義務はありません。重ねて警告しますが、私が未だ攻撃を開始していないのはお嬢様に血生臭い光景を見せたくないからです。
Completely unlike her earlier unflappable demeanor, I see unmistakable anger in Igla for the first time. I must have hit a nerve.
指揮官、イグラの頭部に狙いを定めました。いつでも撃てます。
Klukai's voice comes through my earpiece. I remain outwardly calm and decide to press on. But before I can speak, Orphalune begins on her own.
大丈夫よ、イグラ。隠すほどのことでもないわ。さっき少し喋ったし。彼女は同じ植物学者よ。前は遺伝工学を専攻してたけど、10年前から植物学に転校した。
10 years ago, huh? Wow, how convenient.
名前はチルロビグ。親友よ。ネットで調べれば出てくると思う。正直初めてあなたと会った時、なんか チルドビグに似てるなと思ったの。当時研究で壁に当たってどうしても乗り越えられなかったの。尺だけどその時あの子が現れた。ボトルネック解消の他に新たな方向をも提示してくれた。私の植物が人類の未来を導くという理念に完全に賛同してくれたのよ。粒子変化の媒体問題もあの子が解決した。それがあの花たちなの。あの子には本当に感謝している。数少ない私のことを。
Orphalune suddenly stops, unwilling to continue.
とにかくシルロビグにはいろいろ助けられたの。はい、私の答えは以上よ。
Orphalune turns away from me. Her shoulders are trembling slightly, and her voice has lost its earlier edge.
次はそっちの番。
Yeah, it's only fair. Her voice quivers.
あなたが取材しに来たのは本当に私の研究に興味あるから。
はい。
でも編集長なんかじゃないでしょ。
Even if Klukai had a shot, I'm pretty sure Igla has military-grade ballistic protection under her skin. I mean, she's a third-gen T-doll. Of course she's gonna be, like, equipped to the nines.
はい、違います。ですが研究には本当に興味があります。ただその理由はあなたの研究がとある邪教と関係があるからです。チルロビグもその一員かもしれません。
邪教？
パラデウス、この名前に聞き覚えは？
Orphalene looks bemused. She glances at Igla, then slowly shakes her head.
私の知る限りだとあなたが受けた援助はパラデウス由来の可能性が高い。
パラデウス、あのドイツで有名な？
あれは汚染エリアで何千何万という人間を使って人体実験を繰り返してきた邪教です。昔滅んだはずなのですがまた復活しました。そして人体実験の成果がその技術援助につながった。
嘘よ、いい加減なこと言わないで。
エピフィラムのことを思い出してください。粒子の媒体となる植物など自然発生するわけがありません。あれは何者かが明確な意志を持って作ったものです。そんなことができる人間、あの植物の由来、本当に何も知らないのですか？
いや。
Orphalune stares at me with wide eyes, then looks away. As the heiress of the Gerard group, it's impossible for her to be completely uninformed. She tries to deny it, but her nature won't allow her to lie.
そこまで。昼食のお時間の前にお嬢様の食欲をそぐ存在は抹消せねばなりません。
Igla points her gun at me.
編集長、まずはあなたからです。
待って。
Orphalune struggles to her feet, raises her arms, and steps between me and Igla.
お嬢様、下がってください。
Panic seeps through Igla's voice for the first time, though her grip on the gun remains steady.
聞いて、イグラ。あなたはずっと私のことを守ってくれて、私の代わりに全てを決めてきたけど、今回は自分で向き合うわ。それくらいの勇気もなければ、世界を変えるだなんて少子千万よ。
There's no trace of forced arrogance in Orphalune's voice now. Only a mix of determination and vulnerability. Igla's hand trembles slightly, and she slowly lowers the gun. Orphalune turns back to look at me.
チルロビグが邪教に所属しているかもしれないって話よね。人体実験なんてそんなの許されていいわけがない。でもあの子からは植物学に対する情熱を感じたの。たとえあの子が悪い人でも、あの の子の知識で研究が前に進んだのも事実。
でもそれは無数の悲劇の上に成り立ってるんですよ。
ええ、そうかもしれないわ。あなたの言ったことが本当だとしても、楽園計画が進めば世界中の人々を救うことができる。放射線に苦しむ人も、イエローエリアで生存が脅かされている人もみんな助かる。たとえ後ろめたい事情があったとしても、知識自体に善悪はないわ。でも私ならその知識をいいことのために使える。今日の取材で見たでしょ。放射線をエネルギーに変えられれば人々の暮らしを改善させるだけでなく、無意味な単純労働から労働者を解放することもできる。そうすればより多くの人が生産的な活動に従事できるわ。そんな世界が実現した時、果たして科学がどういう結果をもたらすかはそれを扱う人間次第よ。
あなたの研究が悪用されない保証はありますか？
それは
確かに科学に善悪はないかもしれません。しかし逆に言うと、制御する術を失えば悪魔の道具になりうる。そして誤った方法で正しい結果は導き出せない。私はそれを見てきたんです。フランクフルト事件の生き残りなら本当は分かっているはずでしょう。エピフィラムが吸収したコーラプス粒子が何に使われるか、あなたに制御できますか？楽園計画自体がすでに悪用されているとしたら。
どういうこと？
とある事件現場でバイオポッドに詰められた人間が大量に発見されました。現場は非合法の地下実験室で、ポッドの中には被害者の他にあなたが研究しているものと酷似した植物がありました。彼らは生き袋やブージャムの製造に使われていたのです。そしてそれは大量の粒子による被爆でなければ不可能です。そこにさらに粒子を集める技術が加われば、ブージャムの量産すら実現してしまうかもしれない。あなたの研究がどれほどの被害をもたらす可能性があるか理解していますか？それでも正しいと言い切れますか？
それはそんなこと全然知らない。イグラは知ってるの？
Orphalune's voice trembles. Her arms hang limply at her sides. She no longer tries to hide her confusion and fear behind a proud facade.
お嬢様。
イグラ、本当のことを教えて。
先日ジラードグループ管轄の衛星都市で似たような事件が起き、私もその捜査に参加したことがあります。ですがこの件はすでに非軍事勢力管理局に引き継がれたので詳細は分かりません。
つまり編集長の言ったことは事実なのね。
けれどそれがお嬢様の研究やチルドビグ様との関連性を示す証拠はありません。
そう。
Orphalune clenches her fists. Not daring to look at me, she turns and issues an order to Igla.
イグラ、命令よ。今すぐその事件のことを調べて徹底的に。私の研究を悪用する奴がいたら絶対に許さない。
今ですか？
ええ、そうよ。この研究はより良い未来へ導くためのものなのよ。
ですがこの者たちは。
返してあげて。
それはできません。
どうして？さっきはお金を払って返そうとしたじゃない。
状況が変わりました。この者たちが技術援助の件を暴露すればお嬢様の研究は無に帰すでしょう。それがあなたの望む結果ですか？
Orphalune turns back, gathering her courage to face me again.
もしあなたたちの目的が悪事を暴露することなら好きにして。私は自分の研究がたとえどんな後ろめたい事情があったとしても世界のためになると信じている。私の立場は変わらない。科学はあくまで道具であって善悪はない。それがどう使われるかは人間次第。私の研究は絶対に悪用させない。楽園計画は明日から正式に始まる。それを見たあなたが意見を変えることを期待しているわ。
She reaches out and forces Igla, who had pointed the gun at me again while speaking, to lower her weapon. Orphalune, now fragile yet resolute, is no longer the haughty young mistress.
返してあげて。命を救われた恩をあだで返したくないわ。
Igla looks at Orphalune, complex emotions flickering in her eyes. Finally, she nods.
仰せのままに。
Orphalune leaves the shelter with Igla. The research facility is now teeming with members of the Gerard Group and the PSA. The duo board a luxurious sedan and gradually disappear in the distance, while far behind them, a team of dolls silently follow in pursuit.
通りすがりの人形よ。覚えておいて。
I've mentioned this before, but I love how Rebella's victory quote is just Decade's signature line. And there's Priscaria. Story node! Slumbering lion. When she awakes, all vileness and wickedness shall be destroyed. After the aftermath of the research facility is dealt with, Iglis calmly steps into the laboratory where Alva is confined. Her footsteps strike the marble floor with precise rhythmic clicks, each step carrying an undeniable authority, yet landing with the lightness of a ballet dancer's pointe. You still haven't put any clothes on? Seriously, you had so much time to put on some clothes. Chilavig is still wearing nothing but a loose white lab coat. Green thing. La criatura. She sits barefoot on a swivel chair and spinning happily, a cup of coffee in her hands nearly drowned in syrup. Her smile is dazzling to the point of being unnatural, while cunning and madness glint in her eyes. She lazily swings her legs, the faint curves of her body beneath the lab coat forming a stark contrast with the laboratory's solemn atmosphere.
ご無礼をお許しください、チルロビグ様。
Igla inclines her head slightly, then suddenly lashes out with a kick, sending a marionette doll nearby flying straight at the wall with brutal speed. The metal wall cracks open on impact, leaving a human-shaped dent. The marionette doll, dressed as a researcher, sticks to the wall as if glued there, limbs hanging limp, like a mosquito slapped flat. The laboratory walls let out a groan under the strain. Chilavig jumps to her feet, dramatically cupping her cheeks. Her eyes widen with excitement as she hops over to the deformed marionette doll, tilting her head to admire the artwork. Some disgusting freaks who totally aren't me drooled at the mention of Chilavig barefoot. GFL2 is never beating the foot allegations. Igla calmly smooths her sleeve. Her voice is velvet soft, but her gaze is glacial.
今まで再三強調しましたが、今回が最後です。私たちの協力関係にお嬢様は関係ありません。
Chilavig claps her hands behind her back and circles Igla like a curious little girl, thinking aloud with exaggerated flair.
どうしてまたいきなりオルフェルーネの話を？もしかして私とオルフェルーネの関係に焼いちゃってる？それとも 私がお嬢様に何か悪いことでもしたから？
あなたにそう呼ぶ資格はありません。
そう。でもあの子はあんたの所有物じゃないよ。ま、確かに裏でいろいろやりとりしてたけどさ、それも個人指導のためだよ。でもやっぱりあの子は可愛いから、つい必要のないこともしてあげたくなっちゃうよね。
何の話ですか？
だから私もオルフェルーネの味方ってことだよ。それもこれも全部オレクのジジイが非軍事勢力管理局に尻尾振ったせいだからね。あいつはジラードグループをロレンに明け渡すつもりだよ。あたしもといパラデウスがジラードに協力したのは全部オルフェルーネの研究のため。ついでにグループの再建もしてあげられたら万々歳。
オレク様の思惑通りに進めば、あなた方との協力は一切中止されます。
それ以上だよ、あの薄汚いハゲジジイ。
What's wrong with being bald?
保身のために私たちを売るつもりなんだよ。
She suddenly stops and hops onto the lab workbench, her legs swinging cheerfully in the air.
だからイグラあんたを呼んだわけ。あのジジイと違って頭いいからね。あいつに成り代わって管理局からジラードグループをオルフェルーネと協力関係守ってほしいんだ。楽園計画明日からなんでしょ。あの子が10年もの間積み上げてきたものが壊されるの見たくないでしょ。
Igla makes no response. She walks forward slowly. She stops in front of Chilavig, inclines slightly, and gently places one hand on the surface of the workbench. The moment her hand makes contact, the surface lets out a faint groan, then collapses. The entire workbench splits apart as if ripped by an invisible force. Documents, instruments, and coffee cups spilling onto the floor in a chaotic avalanche. Yet Igla herself remains utterly still, without so much as a wrinkle on her clothes.
この愚かで物質的な提案を飲む唯一の理由は、お嬢様のためだということをお忘れなく。彼女を傷つけようものなら、あなたであろうとオレク様であろうと関係ありません。
あのさ、もうちょっと頭を使ってよ、イグラちゃん。
Chilavig nimbly hops off the shattered workbench, clapping her hands together as a manic grin spreads across her face.
私がオルフェルーネに傷つけるわけないじゃん。オレクと管理局の密約をわざわざ教えてあげたんだよ。
Chilavig leans close to Igla, her lips almost brushing Igla's ear.
あのジジイが守りたいのは自分だけ。お嬢様なんか最初からどうでもいい人なんだ。
Igla tilts her head slightly and stares at Chilavig without expression. In the next instant, with a movement too fast to see, she grips Chilavig by the throat and lifts her into the air.
言われるまではありません。
Igla's voice is ice cold. Her usual air of elegance has vanished entirely by now.
たとえオレク様にお嬢様を裏切る意志がなくても、お嬢様をお守りするのは私です。
そうだよね。
Chilavig smacks Igla's wrist in surrender. When Igla releases her, she drops to the floor. I mean, if we can find out who exactly Chilavig's voice actress is, someone could probably make a compilation of that.
だから一緒に楽園計画を完遂させることがジラードが返り咲く唯一のチャンスってわけ。オルフェルーネは頭が良くて勤勉で夢が大きいし、何より超可愛い。だからこそあの子は計画に必要不可欠なんだよ。あんたが何百回私を殺したってそれは変わらない。
Yes, but it'll make Igla feel better.
ともとこれはあの子の研究だしね。どうあがいても無関係ではいられない。計画のために私があの子を傷つけるわけない。理解した？
計画の成就はお嬢様の宿願です。それについて反論するつもりはありません。ただお嬢様は純粋な科学者であられます。彼女の研究は
No, I want to hear this again. I clicked too fast.
お嬢様は純粋な科学者であられます。彼女の研究はあなた方の道具ではありません。
Perhaps swayed by Chilavig's words, Igla's hostility eases slightly. But when it comes to Orphalune, she yields not an inch. How does nobody know who Chilavig's voice actress is? I'm pretty sure Igla is voiced by Ayako Kawasumi, because I've heard that voice so many times. Chilavig rubs her throat, rising onto her toes. She peers up at Igla with an ominous gleam in her eyes.
そうだね。私なんかと違ってオルフェルーネはいい子だから。でも考えたことある？楽園計画が実現すればジラードは新たな高みに到達してオルフェルーネも世界から注目される。そうなったらあの子の体に隠された秘密も知られちゃうかもね。
Are you subtly blackmailing her? Maybe a talented up-and-coming newbie. I'm surprised, like, none of, like, the dedicated wikis have figured it out yet. Igla's gaze turns icy once more at those words. Her posture remains flawless. Only the tension in her jaw betrays the slightest ripple of emotion.
その無礼な発言の趣旨がわかりません。はっきり言われたらいかがですか？
私は事実を言っただけ。真相は隠されるから面白いんだよ。
Chilavig prances right up to Igla, looking up at this most powerful third-gen doll with a smile both innocent and dangerous.
この世にバレない秘密なんてない。パラデウスの知ってることは他の誰かにもいずれ知られる。気をつけてね。
それは脅迫と捉えてもよろしいですか？
Igla's voice remains courteous, but her tone is chilling. Even the air in the laboratory seems to freeze under her words.
脅迫？そんなことしないって。
Chilavig waves her hands exaggeratingly, then suddenly grows somber. She presses a finger lightly against her lips, her eyes flashing sharply.
これはただの忠告。私は楽園計画がうまくいけばそれでいいし、あんたはジラードグループを立て直せる。オルフェルーネは生涯。まあ、あの子の年でそういうのは早いけど、生涯を費やした夢が叶う。みんなウィンウィンのハッピーエンド。その後起こることに目をつむればね。
Igla takes a slow, deep breath.
それについて対策はあなたの目的は何ですか？
まあ大前提として楽園計画を完遂すること。あの子を守るためとか言って計画を中断するのは言語道断。今言ったリスクを回避する方法は簡単。あの子にスポットライトを当てなきゃいい。あとは O43 をできるだけ早く連れてきてくれたら私一人だけで楽園計画を進められるかもよ。
She flashes a radiant smile again, a shrewd glint dancing in her eyes.
そうすればお嬢様を危険なことに関わらせなくても済むじゃん。同じ科学者としてそんなことをするのは両親が痛むけど。
She shrugs dramatically and spreads her hands.
協力相手の気持ちの方が大事だからね。
No, you don't. Chilavig lies as naturally as she breathes.
そんなことをして あなたに何のメリットがあるというのですか。
あんたとの友情、それに秘密を知る人間は少ない方がいい。
Chilavig winks playfully.
でもそれもあんたの鬼ごっこの腕次第だけどね。
She sends the ball back to Igla's court and looks at her expectantly, waiting for an answer. Igla's gaze flickers. In the end, she says nothing. Her eyes turn toward Alva inside the specialized hibernation capsule. Through the observation window, Alva can be seen writhing in agony within a hallucination. Igla knows Chilavig is right. No matter what, capturing Voimastina, retrieving O-43, and completing the mission she was given from the start remain her top priority. As for Chilavig, there will be time to settle the score later. The hibernation capsule's indicator lights flash incessantly, alarms echoing as Alva's neural data register extreme instability.
反逆の干渉がなければ簡単なはずでした。
Igla gently rests her hand on the capsule's control panel and connects her own port to it. A moment later, she turns back to Chilavig and inclines her head slightly.
O43 は連れ戻します。その代わり、一つだけ条件があります。必ず約束をお守りください。
Inside the capsule, Alva's body convulses violently, as if enduring unimaginable pain. Pain that intensifies further due to Igla's connection. Igla smooths the hem of her suit and walks toward the exit, her footsteps still calm and measured.
おやおや。
Chilavig watches Igla's receding back, then turns to Alva writhing in the capsule, her expression peculiar.
悪く思わないでね。本当はもっと優しくしてあげたかったんだから。
She sighs, then beams brightly again. Hopping back to her seat, she picks up a fresh cup of coffee and gazes at the hibernation capsule as though watching a performance.
どうせ死ぬ運命なんだし、せいぜいデータを貢献してよ、アルバちゃん。
Embers. The world is a silent place. I can't get over this picture of Konoe. Alva jolts awake, gasping for air, her body shaking violently, like a drowning person finally breaking the surface. Sweat soaks through her clothes, clinging coldly to her skin, making her shiver. She looks down and stares blankly at her drenched clothing in disbelief. Something feels wrong, unmistakably wrong, yet she can't quite put a finger on what. She places a hand against her soaked chest, feeling her heart hammering violently, as if it's about to burst free from her ribcage, its dull pounding echoing in her ears. Sweat? A heartbeat? She looks around in a daze and realizes she is sitting upright inside a train. The train is moving at high speed. Through the window, she can see it crossing a desert. Yellow sand stretches endlessly in every direction. Fierce winds howl, whipping sand into the air, blotting out the sky and turning the distant landscape into a hazy blur. The blazing sun scorches the earth, filling the air with dry heat, as if trying to bake everything alive. The ground is cracked and barren, with not a blade of grass in sight. A hopeless desolation, fissures crisscrossing the land like scars, speaking of utter death. The scene is painfully familiar to her. She has wandered aimlessly through a world like this for a full 10 years. Countless battles, countless clashes, all gradually forgotten in this contamination zone.
悪夢か。
Voimastina's voice sounds beside her, breaking the howling silence. It is soft and calm, devoid of emotional fluctuation, almost like an inorganic synthesized electronic tone. Voimastina is seated opposite her, cradling a massive anti-material sniper rifle. Even though the weapon's surface is rough and worn, it still reflects a harsh, piercing cold light. Alva remembers that back when Voimastina first realized her specs no longer gave her an overwhelming advantage over everything. She sought many alternatives. This rifle was one of them. Even so, in this desolate world, even holding such a weapon, Voimastina's towering figure still looks so small compared to the desert outside. Insignificant, lonely, forlorn, as if forgotten by the world. Alva's lips are cracked. She opens her mouth and is startled by how hoarse her voice feels. She lifts a hand to her head and lets out a quiet sigh, trying to massage her temples to ease the stabbing pain. Only then does she notice her fingers trembling slightly, her palms slick with sweat. The sticky and stifling sensation is deeply uncomfortable. She takes a deep breath to steady herself, but ends up inhaling more dust, triggering a violent coughing fit. The image of Angie being swallowed by the tide of Elitz refuses to leave her mind, replaying again and again, tormenting her. And then there's RPK-16. Why was she the one who helped her, the one who stayed by Angie's side?
アンジュが夢に夢の中でも私は守れなかった。
Her trembling voice, filled with pain and guilt, breaks as though she might cry at any second. Whenever Alva thinks of Angelia, an indescribable sorrow surges in her heart, like it's being stabbed by a blade. Every time she looks back and remembers the first time they lost Angelia, she can't help but wonder, if only she had been more perceptive and discovered the problem sooner, if only she had done a better job at protecting AK-12 so that she hadn't missed that decisive battle. If only she had been stronger. If only she had made the right choices, maybe none of this would have happened. Maybe Angelia would still be alive. Maybe Task Force Defy would still be whole. Maybe... But there are no maybes. Alva knows this. She knows it all too well. In this world, there are no maybes.
ごめん。こんなこと言ってもしょうがないよね。こういう夢はあまり見ないから。つい。
She rarely has nightmares. Strictly speaking, she almost never dreams at all.
夢。私が。
Do androids dream of electric sheep? Again, for reference, RPK betrayed everyone to join Paradox because she wanted to become human. So that whole train segment should not make any sense. Even though that whole scene was absolute cinema. That's right. She is just a doll. No matter how human-like she seems, she is still a doll. Dolls do not die, nor do they have heartbeats, or nightmares. They do not sweat either. She stares blankly at her sweaty, sticky hand, her thoughts momentarily unraveling.
よくわかってるじゃないか。
As Alva freezes in confusion, AK-15 suddenly speaks, her voice cutting cleanly through her thoughts. Her tone is completely different from before. Cold and sharp, as if she has become someone else.
AK-15。
今まで起きたこと、アンジェの死も、パラデウスの暴虐も、そして私たちがここまで落ちぶれたのは、お前のせいだ。お前が無能だからだ。
Alva's head jerks up as she stares wide-eyed at AK-15, who is now on her feet, looming over her, gazing down ruthlessly. Alva's pupils constrict in shock. She can't believe her ears. She even wonders if she's still dreaming, or if she's falling into another hallucination. Hallucination?
これはセカンダリレベルの幻覚だ。
また言い訳か。
As AK-15 looks at the shaken Alva, a smile, so derisive it is utterly out of character, appears on her face.
アンジェがいなくなってから私たちは何をしてきた。来る日も来る日もパラデウスに何の戦略的意義もない破壊工作を繰り返してばかり。それで何かが変わったか。10年経った今、奴らは依然存在している。基地を一つ潰しても新たに二つ作られる。私たちのしてきたことに何の意味がある。
Rising higher and higher, AK-15's voice trembles with rage, hatred, and despair. Even as Alva keeps telling herself that this is only a hallucination, her will still threatens to buckle.
どれだけの犠牲を払おうと奴らを根絶することはできなかった。このままでは機能停止するまで無意な日々を過ごすだけだ。何の意味がある。
AK's 15 voice has turned into a roar. Her words crash through the silent desert like a thunderclap.
いや、最初から意味などなかったんだ。
Then if it's so bleak, why are you still fighting? Why haven't you given up yet?
この終わりのないループに陥ったのは他でもない。アルバ、お前のせいだ。違う。
Alvis covers her ears and screams in agony. She wants to run or fight, but she can do neither. She can't move. Her body feels nailed to the ground, heavy as lead, utterly immobile. An inexplicable terror envelops her, pinning her in place. A hallucination? Why is she so certain this is a hallucination? Who's to say the real Voimastina doesn't have such thoughts? At that moment, AK-15 suddenly begins to move. Her movements are slow, stiff, like a marionette pulled by invisible strings. Or a rusted machine that squeaks and groans with every motion. As she leans in closer, her face begins to change. As it twists and distorts, her features blur like a sketch rubbed away by an eraser. Her eyes hollow out until they become black voids that seem to swallow everything. Her mouth stretches into a grotesque grin. Like a wild beast, she bears sharp fangs, sending chills down Alva's spine. That isn't AK-15. It is herself.
私の言っていること、本当は認めているんでしょう。なぜなら全部事実だから。あなたがずっと思ってきた事実。
The Alva before her reaches out and grips her throat. With her airway cut off, suffocating panic floods Alva's mind. The world before her gradually darkens. Is this how it ends? The train horn suddenly blares. The train lurches and rapidly slows, and the Alva before her loses balance, releasing her grip. At the same time, a burly figure slams into Alva, sending her flying. The train screeches to a halt. Rows of doors click and slide open on both sides of the carriage. As Alva clutches her throat and coughs, Voimastina yanks her up from the seat. She shoves Alva out of the train. Behind them, furious roars echo from within the carriage. The doppelganger Alva is now covered in grotesque scars that crisscross her face like countless knife wounds, hideous beyond words. Her bloodshot and bulging eyes, filled with hatred and rage, lock onto Alva as if she wants to devour her alive. Voimastina turns to face the doppelganger. She glances back at Alva one last time, then strides into the carriage and swings her fist at the grotesque doll. That Alva begins to rupture and split apart into waves of elits crashing to the ground, snarling as they surge towards her. Alva feels her breathing quicken, but she must stay calm. She must not be deceived by the illusion. She must not let her emotions take control. She has to find the flaw in this hallucination she wants to escape. She takes a deep breath and grips the gun in her hands tightly, feeling the cold solidity of the weapon, forcing her emotions back under control. The train doors close, and the train begins to move again, carrying away Voimastina and the grotesque Alva, while the tide of elites that has spilled outside rushes toward her. This is a battle she cannot afford to lose. If she loses, she will be trapped in this illusion forever, never escaping, forever living in pain and self-blame, with no chance of redemption. It's your fault. It's all your fault. Oh yes, it's all my fault. That's why I can't die here. There are too many things I need to do first. Bring it. Alright. Well, this isn't so tough.
任せて。失望はさせません。現直。
Alright, we go over here. Form the wombo
行
combo.
動開始。時間に注意。進歩は必須よ。
Oh, alright.
あなたの罪を数えなさい。
Move up here. Take some pot shots. That won't take anyone out, unfortunately. Well, I can at least take you out. What about you two? I only hit one. That's bullshit. What do I hear? What do I hear? Yeah, that's better.
みんなのために。
任務了解。脅威を排除する。任務了解。
ごめんね。
タクティカルモード起動。
Wait. Why are the barrels moving? Why did I get pushed around? Is it the wind? Is the wind pushing everyone back? Yeah, the wind is pushing everyone. Huh. Okay then. Don't fall off. Okay, don't fall off. Objective. Survive.
邪魔よ。はい。ご命令を。
It is fucking windy, my man.
任務了解。はい。
ごめんね。
任務了解。
Bye. Can we... Nope, we can't even attack you here. Heckin' windy. Get pushed off. Nah. Everyone's getting pushed back, jeez.
私がやる。攻撃開始。
Alva opens her eyes. She is sitting in a vast desert. Some distance away, the howls of an Elid horde foretell the imminent battle, and just when she is about to run out of ammo, Angelia will come to her rescue. She just has to accept the fact that she will never be able to pull Angelia onto that train. She will be ushered onto the train by RPK-16, then expelled from the same train by AK-15, only to start waiting for Angelia's arrival began. Again. How many times has she repeated this cycle? Alva has lost count. She recalls what AK-15 just said.
この終わりのないループに陥ったのはアルバ、お前のせいだ。
She lowers her head. What she is experiencing here is exactly the same as what she is doing in the past 10 years, going in an endless circle in a place that defies description. Together with the hulking Dull, they have wiped out Paradise again and again whenever it appears in their sights. Yet as time goes on, the intelligence they receive leads them to a desperate conclusion. Paradise is reviving in some form, and that revival is accelerating. With her assistance and the support from their former comrades, Alva and Voimastina have both grown significantly in strength. But even so, the day they can fulfill their former leader's wish seems to be drifting farther and farther away. This place is both a nightmare and a reenactment of reality. Alva opens her palm, which reveals a small cube. That cube appeared in her hand when she got off the train for the first time. Alva peers at the glowing cube, yet still shakes her head. Even as this is only a nightmare, Angelia's appearance has given Alva second thoughts. But She knows she can no longer hesitate. Something has to change, Alva thinks. After a brief pause, she touches the cube with her fingertips. The cube emits a faint glow. A blurry figure gradually takes shape in front of her.
どうしたのアルバ。
AK-12
Alva stares blankly at that familiar, yet somehow distant face. It has been 10 years since she last saw her in this form.
まさかこんな時まであなたに頼ることになるなんて。
私のことが意外？でもここにあるものは全部あなたが作り出したのよ。
AK-12 casually looks around before letting her gaze settle back on Alva.
私がいるとあなたの防壁は脆弱になる。本当にいいの？
知ってる。ただあなたに会いたかった。
相変わらず甘え上手ね。せっかくあのキューブあいつが助けてあげたのに。
私は
A gentle smile graces AK-12's face, her eyes remaining closed.
本当は自分でも意味がないって分かってるんじゃない？
意味がないとは思ってない。
じゃあどうしてまだここにいるの？
私は正しいと思うことをやってるだけ。でも何が正しいのかだんだんわからなくなってきた。何かを変えることができたのか。隊長としてアンジェの意志を告げられたのかもわからない。
自分が信じられない？人形なんだからそんなこと考えても無駄よ。なのにそれでメンタルを蝕まれて。
私はただアンジェの目的を果たせないのが怖くて。
じゃあアンジェの目的は何だと思う？
パラデウス、そして自分のために遺跡を利用しようとする人間の根絶。
本当にそうだと思う？アンジェはあなたに本音を言わなかったんだ。あるいはあなたの一方的な願望かもね。アンジェは失敗の決まった道で倒れた。なのにあなたたちは今もその後を追っている。彼女は叶うあてもないほど壮大すぎる理想を抱き、それを受け継いだ者は理想の中身すら知らない。暗闇の中で光を追ったつもりが、その光の下は断崖絶壁だった。あなたたちもそこから落ちるつもり。10年経っても何も変わらなかったのに。
どうして私が今もここであなたの話を聞いてるか。
どうして？
あなたの言ったことは全て私の本心だから。
The smiling AK-12 gradually turns into Alva.
そして同時に私が克服すべき弱点でもある。アンジェがどうして諦めなかったのかずっと考えてた。私はアンジェの言葉を思い出したの。もし人生が徒労に終わる定めとしてあがく意味はどこにあるのかしら。今の私じゃまだ答えは出せない。多分アンジェも同じ疑問を自分に投げ続けてきたんだと思う。そしてアンジェの答えはその答えを一生かけて探す。そう、希望が見えなくても変わる日まで進まなくちゃいけないの。確かに私はアンジェの本当の理想がわからない。でも私たちが諦めさえしなければ彼女の意志は生き続ける。抗い続けることが反逆の誓いだから。
The Alva before her smiles serenely, finally at peace.
選択には代償が伴うし、アンジェはそれを払った。あなたは
代償を払う準備ならできてる。じゃあ、あなたの実力を試させてもらうよ。
Alva begins to split apart, rupturing into hordes of elites that crash onto the ground, snarling as they lunge toward her. But now, Alva is no longer stricken with panic. She simply tightens her grip and raises her weapon, aiming it at the Alva before her.
時間をかけすぎた。後でボイマスティナに謝らないと。何がある？私は進み続けるしかない。そうですよね、アンジェ。昔みたいに私に感謝するといいわ。
We love it when characters overcome their own weaknesses. You love to see it. Sycamore branches. In the collapsing darkness, the Wolf of Nirvana carries on. Hello, Irma. Oh, it's just the same map, but in the opposite direction. Okay. Okay, I guess we just climb the wall. Okay. Let's put you over here. You can't climb the wall either, just yet. Ah, whatever. Whatever. We'll figure something out. Count up your sins. Alright. Pop you. Get you. Look at that, you're exposed. Alright, we can't really aim that far. Well, we'll just get rid of you. You get a shield, you get a shield, you get a shield! Everyone gets a shield! Even the barrels get moved. That's kinda funny. Oh wait, reinforcements? Nobody told me about those. Yeah, we'll stay over here. Not get hit. Alright, go explodey now. That didn't even take you out. Great. Barrels, barrels, barrels. Okay, you're just gonna burn to death. Oh, we fell. We fell. Okay, say goodbye to you. Then over here. Not quite. What about over here? That hits them all. Yay! The desert, the yellow sand, the campfire, and the endless elites all vanish without a trace. All that remains before her eyes is a vast expanse of pure white. Her neural cloud is no longer at the mercy of hallucinations. She calmly awaits the final conversation. Alva looks up at the sky. There is no sun, no moon, no stars. Only a pristine whiteness, like an immaculately spotless ceiling. She looks around in confusion, sensing the stillness of the world. When she first opens her eyes, the surrounding white seems shrouded in a thin mist or vapor. As she begins to observe her more closely, that haze slowly fades away. Even though everything remains flawlessly white, Alva has already recognized it. She is in that mansion. The carpet, the walls, and the furniture, all white, blend perfectly into the white background. However, if one looks carefully, their shapes can still be discerned through light and shadow. If she were equipped with wolf eye, she would have figured it out much more easily, Alva thinks.
やっと来たわね、アルバ。
アンジェ。
As if she had known Angelia would appear all along. Alva turns toward the source of the voice. Angelia is wearing a long, pure white dress, almost completely merging with the background. Only her familiar face and confident smile stand out clearly. She looks more mellow than Alva remembers, without a trace of battle left upon her. Alva is slightly taken aback by Angelia's unfamiliar appearance. Angelia steps forward lightly and reaches out to stroke Alva's cheek. The sensation is warm and real.
久しぶりね、アルバ。
This is such a stark difference from her train station appearance. Seeing Angelia dressed like this fills Alva with the inexplicable sense of familiarity and comfort. She doesn't know what to say. She can only keep drinking in the sight of Angelia, as if trying to etch this image deep into her neural cloud.
10年ぶりかしら。はい。一瞬だったわね。
Angelia scratches her head with a self-mocking smile, unsure where to begin.
どう？みんな元気？
No, we have not been well at all. Alva wants to speak, but it feels as though something is lodged in her throat. She gazes at Angelia, a flood of complex, indescribable emotions surging within her. Angelia takes Alva's hand and leads her slowly through the pure white mansion. Alva steadies herself and tells Angelia about Task Force Defy's battles over the past 10 years, about forming a new anti-relic organization, about dismantling Paradise bases one after another. Angie simply listens with a smile as 10 years worth of words gush out of Alva all at once.
ケビンもネイレも助けてくれました。潜水艦基地で助けた子供のこと覚えていますか？
私と同じ名前の子？
はい、アンナです。成長して今やもう一人前に。一緒にいた子供たちも元気です。
そう。よかった。
Suddenly, Angelia stops walking. She turns to Alva and asks her, in the same casual tone one might use to ask what to eat for lunch.
アルバ、この10年で諦めようと思ったことはないの？
どうしてそんなことを？
パラデウスは巨大すぎるわ。根絶するなんて無理かもしれない。すべてを投げ出すのも選択の一つよ。と言っても、あなたは聞かないでしょうね。
Of course not.
はい。私はまだ止まるわけ。
Before Alva can finish, Angelia gently pulls her into an embrace, speaking in a voice that's like she's soothing an exhausted child to sleep.
あなたたちに何もかも押し付けて申し訳なく思ってるわ。この10年辛かったでしょう。
You have no idea. Alva doesn't reply. She just holds Angelia tightly.
それでもあなたたちはここまで来た。見違えるように頼もしくなって安心し。
Reluctantly, Alva lifts her head. After a long while, she whispers something so softly it's almost inaudible.
もしあなたが生きていたら。
私もあなたたちのそばにずっといたい。 一番大変な時なのにごめんなさい。
いえ、昔一緒にいてくれた。それだけで十分です。
そう。でもいつまでも私を引きずらないで。メンタルをすり減らしてまでこんなシミュレーションをして。
アンジェ、私はどうすれば。諦めたくないけれど、どうすればいいか分かりません。
私も同じよ。今のあなたは私なんかよりしっかりしてる。あの時の私も同じぐらいしっかりしてたらこんなことには。冗談よ。
アンジェ。
でも一つだけ忠告させて。
忠告？
私の影を追わずに自分が正しいと思ったことをして。私と同じことに執着するのが意志を継ぐことじゃない。自分だけの目標を探して。
私の目標。
昔と同じことをすればいい。この10年たくさんの人を救ってきたんでしょ。そのためにしたこと後悔していない？
するわけがないよ。
なら救い続けなさい。あなたの力で。答えが見つかるその日まで。
This is such a fitting track for this moment.
大丈夫。きっと見つかるわ。私たちはそうやって進んできたじゃない。あなたたちがいる限り悪人どもも好き勝手できないわ。思う存分反逆しなさい。
Alva chuckles in relief, and Angelia laughs along with her.
いつか必ず奴らを根絶やしにします。
ねえ、楽しみにしているわ。
Angelia stretches, walks a few steps forward, then turns back to look at Alva.
そろそろね。私らしくないことをいっぱい喋ったけど、私は私じゃないしね。でも私が伝えたいこともきっと同じよ。今の私ほど優しく伝えられないかもしれないけど。帰り道わかるわよね。
はい。
Alva takes out the cube. Before activating it, she prepares to say her final goodbye to Angelia.
アンジェ、話せてよかったです。
あなたの防壁を突破するための演算力を逆に利用してこんなことしてると分かったら怒るわよね、あなた。
Alva laughs and shakes her head.
彼女のおかげです。
そうね。あの子たちにもよろしく伝えといて。
はい。
Alva opens her palm. The cube glows brightly. She closes her hand. When she opens it again, the cube has transformed into a familiar MP443.
元気でね、アルバ。
さようなら、アンジェ。
Alva raises the pistol. In the sights, Angelia smiles and waves at her. As Angelia falls, her body dissolves into countless specks of light. The white space finally fails to hold, collapsing in vast swaths and revealing the endless darkness beyond. Before everything turns to nothingness, Alva seems to glimpse a blurry figure standing in the distance. The figure simply nods once, then turns away, fading away along with the collapsing white world.
ありがとう。私は進み続けます。通りすがりの人形よ。覚えておいて。
Angie can... No. Alva can finally move forward. Another story node! Oh, God. Oh. Magnum opus. Even if our ambitions do not align. No, if even our ambitions do not align, then how long can we remain comrades? The familiar hum echoes in her ears. The sounds of countless instruments and machines interweave into an endless industrial symphony. That was absolute cinema! Inside the hibernation capsule, the cold touch of metal presses in from all sides, binding Alva tightly and leaving her unable to move. Alva slowly opens her eyes. Her vision shifts from a blur to clarity. The scene before her is no different from before. She is in the same narrow, specially designed capsule, with the same busy marionette doll researchers milling about outside. And through the observation window, legs crossed as she perches on a high stool, is Chilavig. She finally put some clothes on! Chilavig springs up exaggeratingly and scampers to the observation window, pressing her entire face against the glass. Her distorted grin looks eerie and slightly comical. She taps the glass with a finger, as if knocking on a fish tank. She suddenly falls back to a step, cupping her face with a one hand, eyes wide. Chilavig spins as she talks, making a little gesture beside her temple to convey how mind-blowing she finds the situation, then abruptly freezes. She bends down and presses her face close to the window again. She bares her teeth in a wide grin, then suddenly slumps in disappointment, letting out an exaggerated sigh as her shoulders droop. She traces shapes in the air, as if assembling an imaginary jigsaw. She shrugs, then abruptly puts on an expression of sympathy, blinking her big eyes and pouting her lips in an exaggerated manner. She strikes an over-the-top pose in apology, right hand to her chest, left hand drawing circles in the air. She presses a finger to her lips in a conspiratorial shushing gesture. She makes a throat-slitting gesture, sticks out her tongue, then breaks into giggles. Alva merely watches her manic display in silence, her eyes utterly flat. Chilavig suddenly stops and lightly smacks her own cheeks, as if admonishing herself. It's like the dark shadow of Lena, that constant cat face. She smiles sweetly, licking her lips as her tone suddenly becomes low and enticing. She leans against the observation window, fingertips gliding lightly across the glass. She tilts her head, her voice almost coquettish, yet a dangerous glint shines in her eyes. Evil green Lena, exactly! See, you get the reference. Alva doesn't answer right away, even though she senses that she has regained the ability to speak. Whether because her condition has improved, or because Chilavig has disabled some restrictions, she doesn't know. Regardless, she simply stares at Chilavig, her gaze utterly calm and still, like stagnant water, without the slightest ripple.
チェ、これくらいじゃダメか。
Chilavig pouts and stomps her foot like a child denied candy. Then her expression rapidly shifts. She leans close to the glass, a cruel smile spreading across her face.
ま、死すら知らない化け物だから。当然じゃ当然か。
You're the last person I want to hear that from. Alva's eyelids twitch.
私から何を聞き出したい？ボイマスティナと O43 の居場所なら今やお前たちの方が詳しいはず。反逆正体についてはパラデウスはすでに十分把握しているはずだ。お前たちと違って私たちは正々堂々表で動いているからな。
なん勘違いだぞ。
Chilavig wags a finger and prances away.
そういうのはイグラしか興味ないから。
仲間じゃないのか。
ちょっと違うかな。私たちはただ利害が一致しているだけ。ナゲットとポテトはセットで出てくるでしょ。ちょっと違うか。まあそんなもん。
She wags a finger like a strict teacher, even though the analogy might as well come from a child.
てなわけだから仲間じゃないね。私はイグラの腕っぷしを、イグラは私の頭脳が欲しいだけ。
私には十分仲間に聞こえるが。
志も違うのに。
Her smile suddenly vanishes, and her tone turns grave.
反逆正体は利害の一致で集まったわけ？
Alva lifts her head slightly. Since their encounter at the base, this is the first time she truly meets Chilavig's eyes.
じゃあお前の志は何だ？
Chilavig snaps her fingers lightly, and her grin reappears. With that gesture, the marionette doll researchers bustling around the lab all freeze, turn, and stare at Alva with hollow eyes. They stand in perfect unison, like soldiers awaiting orders, silently watching her. An oppressive presence. Chilavig slowly walks back to the observation window, her voice dripping with temptation.
私は喋るの好きだし、いろいろ知ってるけど、あんたたち反逆正体のことはまだよく分かってないんだよね。あんたたちがパラデウスに対して変質的とも言える恨みを抱いているのは分かる。でも、その理由が分からないし、知りたい。
Her tone grows somber, and a fanatic light blazes in her eyes.
パラデウスのやろうとしていることは、現人類が到底たどり着けない領域なんだよ。
She throws her arms wide, as if embracing the entire world.
生命の神秘、進化の奇跡。まるで魔法のようだけど、科学そのものなんだ。
Only better because it's science. Hell yeah, science! Her eyes gleam as she stares into empty space.
その過程にわずかな犠牲があっても。結果オーライならどうでもよくない？ケーキを作るのだって卵を割らないといけない。
She mimes cracking eggs, then lifts her hands as if presenting an invisible cake.
人類を次のステップに導いて新たな世界を作るんだよ。
She pauses, her tone softening like she's speaking to a lost child, though the fervor in her eyes remains.
そしてアルマちゃん、あんたはその世界の一員になれる。これだけ計り知れない潜在能力とメンタルを持ちながら、古びた体と無意味な恨みにとらわれちゃって。惜しいよ。本当に惜しい。
Chilavig theatrically wipes away non-existent tears, lamenting Alva's incomprehensible choice.
チャンスをあげる。過去から抜け出して未来へ進むチャンスを。 私と手を組んでくれたらあんたが絶対に叶えたい願いを叶えてあげよう。
I don't like where this is going.
願い
And the music cuts out.
それはね、ただーん、あんたたちのかつての指揮官アンジェリアを生き返らせちゃうぞ。
She drags out each syllable, her voice tantalizing. At the sound of Angelia's name, Alva's pupils contract sharply.
私が生き返るとこ見たでしょ。しかも2度もだよ。
She grins as she mimes clawing her way out of a grave.
10年経っちゃったけど、アンジェリアの人格データはパラデウスのデータベースにあるから大丈夫。
Lies! I do not believe you.
他のメンバーはどうでもいい。あんたさえうなずいてくれれば、アンジェリアはすぐにでも帰ってくるよ。私の知る限りだと、彼女の死がパラデウスへの恨みの根源だからね。どう？これ以上ないウィンウィンだと思わない？
Chilovik sways smugly, watching Alva's reaction, convinced she'd struck her weakness.
本当にできるのか。
Chilovik's eyes light up, a satisfied smile spreading across her face.
もちろん、このチルロビグに二言はないよ。
But you lied to Orphalune, and we're not friends. Therefore, we cannot trust you. She places one hand over her heart and raises the other high in solemn oath.
そんな保証はどこにある。王43を手に入れるための嘘とも考えられる。お前とイグラの会話は聞いていた。楽園計画の完遂がお前たち共通の目的。それより私を引き入れる方を優先するのか。
Alva's voice trembles slightly, though she tries to keep it steady. She peers at Chilovik with a mix of hope and doubt, waiting for an answer, seeking confirmation that the woman before her is telling the truth. Chilovik slaps her thigh and bursts into exaggerated laughter.
私を誰だと思ってんのさ。マルチタスクくらい余裕余裕。
Angelia was killed by Paradeus with the help of RPK and Pandora. It's the truth.
あんたを味方につけることも、楽園計画を進めることも同時にできるんだから。
楽園計画の実態は何だ。
へえ、そんなに知りたい？
She arches an eyebrow, leaning forward as if sharing a grand secret. In her eyes, Alva has clearly been shaken by the offer and is starting to waver.
しょうがないな。じゃあ、ちょっとだけ。
Angelia's consciousness merged with Nadia's. I don't even know who Nadia is. She steps closer to the observation window, lowering her voice.
楽園計画は人類に変革をもたらす計画。蝶を誘うある花を使って前人未到の新世界へ。
Through a flower that draws in butterflies, we get a glimpse of new world no one's.
戦争も病も痛みもなく、幸福と栄光だけがある世界へ訪れる。
She spreads her arms and closes her eyes, as if already seeing it.
誰もが肉体から解き放たれ、永遠の命を得られて、誰もが夢を叶えられる無限の可能性を秘めた世界へ。それを叶える鍵として花が必要なんだよね。
Her eyes snap open and blaze with fanatic light. She has revealed another new term, key.
分かってくれた？そろそろ答えを聞かせてほしいな。
Chilovik smiles faintly, tossing the key toward Alva. She doesn't notice that while she was busy making her impassioned speech, Alva's gaze has already grown cold. The faint hesitation has vanished completely, leaving only scorn and fury.
それはまた随分と偉大だな。だから王43を利用して 遺跡の扉を開くつもりか。モルスカヤズビズダーを小型化したものを作ったのか。どう遺跡の作り出すあの空間、何に使うつもりだ。
Alva's rapid-fire questions catch Chilvig completely off guard.
あんた、は、どうしてそれを知ってるわけ？
Chilvig's smile freezes, shock and anger flashing across her face. She rushes to her terminal, only to discover the central system's firewall has already been completely failed. Then when it dawns on her, Alva has infiltrated the servers. She may have read all the classified data.
バカにしてるの？
No! No, Chilvig. You played yourself. Her voice turns sharp, her sweet smile twisting into something grotesque.
どうやらお前は自分が思うほど頭は良くないようだ。私が何のためにここに来たと思ってる。
This time, it is Alva whose voice is dripping with open mockery.
だがお前は一つだけ正しいことを言った。お前なんか小に遠く及ばない。
Eat shit, Chilvig! Chilvig's expression shifts rapidly. Anger, hurt, rage, before finally settling into a warped smile.
ああ、せっかくチャンスをあげようと思ったのに、あんたはそれをミスミスと。
She slams her hand against the observation window with a deafening bang.
残念だけど、今まで通りに扱わせてもらうね。メンタル攻撃から生き延びられて、物理的なダメージはどうだろうね。いつまでその生意気な態度でいられるかな。
A sick smile spreads across her face as she presses her face up against the glass. Alva no longer hides her fury. She glares at Chilvig with open contempt and disgust.
ずっとだ。いつかお前たち、パラデウスとジラードが罪の代価を払うまで。
Nadia was the AI in Dr. Shaw's lab. Dr. Shaw created Defy. Well, now I have some context as to who Samantha Shaw is.
特にお前はこの手で頭を引きちぎる。アンジを侮辱したことを後悔させてやる。
Chilvig guffaws as if she just heard the funniest joke.
いやー、楽しみだよ、アルバちゃん。
Suddenly, red lights flash throughout the lab. Alarms flood the room. The smile freezes on Chilvig's face as she stares at Alva in disbelief.
何をした？
Alva answers her with a hint of derision.
さあ。
Chilvig stands stunned for 3 seconds, then snaps out of it. She rushes back to the terminal, trying to initiate self-destruction, but the system rejects her again and again.
同じ手は二度も通用しない。自決剤を持ってないのなら早く逃げるんだ。用事を済ませた。また遊び相手になってあげる。
She blows an exaggerated kiss, then turns and sachets out of the lab without looking back.
出番だよ。ボイマスティー
Alva closes her eyes. There is no panic, no hesitation, just calmness that seems out of place on a prisoner in enemy captivity. Her fingers twitch lightly, as if playing a silent melody. Meanwhile, deep within the Gerard Group's facilities, Void Mestina makes her final preparations within the labyrinthine sewer system. Void Mestina is leaning against a damp wall. Before her floats a holographic projection of the Gerard Group's underground complex. This is one of the things she prepared before Void Mestina and Alva entered Lviv. Originally intended as a retreat plan, no one thought it would be now used for an assault. Void Mestina is laden with carefully prepared tactical gear. Breaching tools, electronic jammers, spare magazines, and several compact EMP devices. Each has been checked and calibrated to ensure flawless performance. She finishes her third equipment check, shuts down the map, stands upright. In the corner of the sewer, Helena keeps a clear distance from Void Mestina. She curls up in a protruding pipe in the shadows, watching Void Mestina's every move with vigilance. 3 metal spheres orbit her, ready to form a defensive array.
突入1分前
Void Mestina's voice is low and steady, though it's unclear who she's addressing. She inspects her assault rifle, making sure that every mechanical component is optimal, then seats the magazine in one smooth, silent motion. Helena watches her proficient handling of the weapon and instinctively shrinks back. The 3 metal spheres move at once, forming a miniature protective barrier before her. Void Mestina notices the movement but shows no emotional response. She simply continues with her preparations, scanning the surroundings with wolf eye and running a self-diagnostics.
ルート確認完了
Helena leans forward slightly, seemingly curious about Void Mestina's muttering, but quickly withdraws when Void Mestina looks up at her.
あいつ上にいる？
Void Mestina nods briefly. She takes a small device from her tactical pack. After a moment of hesitation, she sets it on the ground between herself and Helena without moving closer.
ジャミング装置だいざという時に押せ
Helena stares at the device, but doesn't reach for it. One of her metal spheres glides over, lightly prods it as if checking for danger, then carefully carries it back to her. Void Mestina watches calmly, offering no comment. Once Helena has it, she turns back to her own gear.
私とアルバそして彼女にはお互いにしかわからない発信機が取り付けられている型は古く受信範囲は2キロしかないが
It is a key component of her and Alva's breach formation, and now the lifeline of this rescue mission. Helena listens, her wariness easing slightly, though she still keeps her distance.
あいつどうして逃げなかった？
The question catches Void Mestina off guard. She pauses what she's doing and looks at Helena. Something subtle shifts in her eyes.
任務のためお前のためだ
The short, direct answer seems to weigh on Helena. She lowers her head and murmurs softly.
あいつ私知らない。
Helena falls silent, as if pondering what Void Mestina just told her.
あいつ助ける？
The question once again gives Void Mestina pause. She meets Helena's gaze.
あ
本当？
Void Mestina nods.
だがお前は一緒に来るな
Helena's eyes widen.
やだ！
ダメだ
Void Mestina shakes her head.
お前を守る余裕はない
私強い？
Are you? Helena points at herself. Void Mestina draws her broken combat knife and uses the snap blade to carve a grotesque face into the ground.
あいつは強い私よりも
Helena looks down at the crude drawing. Even generously speaking, it's terrible, but she recognizes Igla all the same. Helena droops, dejected.
ここで待っていろアルバを助けたら迎えに来る
Helena seems to remember something. The 3 metal spheres beside her begin to rotate slowly, emitting a faint hum. One of the spheres breaks formation and floats up in front of her. Helena reaches out with her small hands, gently cups the sphere, and offers it to Void Mestina. She drew Igla like a Tails drawing of the protagonist on the Wanted posters. Oh my god, Jack, have you seen the Wanted poster for Lloyd Irving in Tales of Symphonia? It is certainly something.
これあげる。守ってくれる？
Her tone is serious, resolute, like entrusting something precious. Void Mestina freezes slightly as she looks at the sphere. She may not fully understand Helena's specific circumstances, but she knows the spheres are Helena's weapon, as well as her defense system. She wants to refuse. Helena needs it more. But seeing the expected look in Helena's eyes, she finally relents and accepts it.
ありがと
The sphere feels cold in her hand, but the texture doesn't feel exactly metallic to her. Once the sphere comes into contact with Void Mestina, It seems to gain awareness and floats up to hover at her side. Helena nods with satisfaction. She steps back slightly, her eyes never leaving Voidmastina. Voidmastina rises to her full height and looks up toward the sewer exit once more. Her gaze sharpens, resolute, like a beast about to strike. She takes a deep breath and rolls her shoulders. Her joints crackle softly. She is ready. No one will stop her. Whoosh. She launches upward like a battering ram, smashing through the metal grate in an instant. The entrance is torn open and a shaft of bright light comes pouring down. The light falls on Helena, who has stayed behind on her own. She lifts her head slightly, waiting in silent obedience. Oh, we're so close, chat! The end is in sight! Tabula Smaragdina. Just like what they've always done. I'm in. Sending over the security system plans now. Coordinates shared. Copy that. Wait for me. I mean, this should be pretty easy.
現着みんなを守れるようになりたいです
At least one allied unit reaches the designated area. Okay, I know this is supposed to be like a sneaky mission, but I'm just gonna go full frontal assault and just attack everyone in my way, and I'm not gonna care. I'm too...
みんなのために
I seriously don't care.
任務了解
Like, bam. I've alerted everyone.
任務了解
ごめんね
着手されますご命令を
Florence's theme here is a choice.
あなたの罪を数えなさい
I would lean toward it being a good choice.
立ってろごめんね私だ
Bye. Like, it really doesn't matter. Oh no! We got hit for 48 damage.
ご命令を
Like, it really doesn't matter.
撃て
その ごめんね
Yeah, it's like, it's either Suomi or Alva who's gonna reach the end. It's definitely not gonna be Macchiato, because snipers have notoriously bad movement.
任務了解
Rapid, heavy footsteps echo through the empty corridor. If not for Alva's signal guiding her, Voidmastina would never have discovered the secret Paraduce laboratory hidden inside this glossy, immaculate building. She can't find, nor does she bother to look for, the switch to any hidden door. After confirming the location, she simply smashes through the wall with brute force, revealing the dark passage beyond. Wawa too slow. Maybe if she got rid of that emotional baggage, she'd be able to move faster. Helena's metal sphere follows closely behind. It emits a beam of blue light to scan the passage for traps and surveillance devices. Then it precisely fires several jamming pulses that cripple the electronics along the way. Can't find a door? Look, I found a door. I just made the door. Bang. After destroying the automated sentry turrets lining the corridor, she drives a powerful kick into the heavy metal door standing at the far end, producing a deafening crash. Under the tremendous force, the metal door twists and caves inward, nearly tearing free from its frame. The hinges let out an agonized screech, like the cry of pain under unbearable strain. Debris flies, dust fills the air. As the door finally collapses completely, Voimastina's figure appears in the laboratory entrance, like an unscalable mountain. She takes in busy marionette doll researchers, the complex instruments and machinery, but in the end, her gaze settles on the specially designed hibernation capsule. Even without confirming the signal, she knows that Alva is in there. Likewise, despite being trapped inside the capsule, Alva is aware of Voimastina's arrival. Her voice, coming from within the capsule, sounds weak, utterly different from when she confronted Chilavik earlier. Weak, but unmistakably clear. More importantly, there is an air of inevitability in her tone, as if everything has unfolded exactly as she calculated. The moment Voimastina steps into the lab, the once busy marionette dolls abruptly turn toward her in unison, their eyes glowing a terrifying red. Blades and firearms extend from hands once used for research with a whoosh. In the very next second, they all lunge at Voimastina together. In that instant, Helena's metal sphere deploys its full weapon system, transforming into a floating spherical turret. Precise energy beams fire from multiple angles, striking key points on several marionette dolls, and opening a path for Voimastina. Crack. These dolls are even stronger than the guards outside. A blade hacks into Voimastina's frame, carving a deep wound. But Voimastina pays it no mind. She grabs one of them and yanks hard, tearing off the arm with a polymer vibration blade attached to it. Without a single pause, she swings the severed limb like a weapon. Bang. Stop hitting yourself! Stop hitting yourself! Stop hitting yourself! The limb slams into another doll's head with tremendous force. Its skull explodes instantly, electronic components and oil spraying everywhere. Voimastina's movements are clean, decisive, and packed with raw power. In the next moment, she has already closed in on the remaining dolls. Weapons extended from their arms fire continuously. Bullets rain down on Voimastina, sending sparks flying violently across her frame. Yet she seems unfazed, her steps never slowing. Soon, only one figure remains standing in the laboratory. She stands amid the wreckage, her body splattered with synthetic blood and machine oil. Strong as she may be, Voimastina is still covered in wounds. The metal sphere hovers at her side, scanning the remains on the floor, checking for any units that haven't been fully disabled. Ignoring the sphere, she strides straight toward the capsule holding Alva. She lifts her right arm and drives it straight into the metal hatch like a blade. Then she hooks her thumb in and rips hard, tearing the capsule door right off. Alva sits quietly inside. Keikakudori. All according to Keikaku. Translator's note. Keikaku means plan. Her voice still soft, but her eyes are razor sharp and fully alert. Voimastina lowers her gaze to the cables and restrains binding Alva's frame. Having fought her way here with sheer violence, she now becomes careful and precise, slowly removing each restraint. The torn cables, still sparking, silently testify to the torment Alva endured while imprisoned. Wires snap with crackling pops, sending sparks flying. Restraints tear loose with ripping hisses, falling to the floor. Soon, Alva is completely free. The moment she regains her freedom, she stands up on her own without waiting for Voimastina's help. No greetings, no visible relief. She just gently pushes Voimastina aside and walks straight toward the terminal at the center of the lab. Her objective is crystal clear, as if every step has been long planned. At this moment, Alva looks less like a rescued captive and more like an operative who has finally reached her target. Alva extracts an auxiliary digit from her hand, then draws a data cable from the back of her neck and plugs it directly into the terminal. Well, hi there, Timeline, man. Thank you for the raid. Welcome, Raiders. I'm Thunderbird Prime, Master of VTuber, and we are witnessing Absolute Cinema, aka Corpusant Part 1.5 in Girls Frontline 2 Exilium. How was your stream? Did you get a lot of work done? I was lurking, which means I am now watching myself. So after I give you the good old shout out. Oh wait, you were not, you're not doing art. You were doing the Toho Super Robot Wars parody. Okay. Now we just gotta hide the screen as I tab out. Because if I tab out, it's just gonna show a bunch of HoloLive TCD cards. Alright, let's see. Who can we switch over to? You. Actually, you. It's you. Honk. Alright. The motion is fluid, nothing like someone who has just survived an almost lethal neural attack, and far more like a hunter fully lunging for her prey. Alva frowns slightly with some concern. Voimestina keeps her eyes on Alva, running rapid diagnostics with her wolf eye. Once she confirms there's no severe damage, the tension in her body eases almost imperceptibly. She then scans the room and locates the equipment stripped from Alva. Alva says nothing. Her eyes are already flashing once more with cascading green data streams. Having retrieved Alva's gear, she moves to her side and re-equips everything piece by piece as Alva focuses on copying data. At the same time, she points at the hovering metal sphere Helena gave her, indicating that it can serve as a communicator. Alva doesn't turn her head. Even as Voimestina finished helping her gear up, she remains fully focused on the terminal. But this is kind of important! Alva doesn't waver. On the monitor before her, the data scroll mirrors her flashing eyes. Voimestina nods, no longer objecting. She heads toward the lab entrance that she has wrecked, crouches down, and begins setting traps. Alarms continue to wail throughout the lab and corridors. Amid flashing red lights and piercing sirens, Voimestina and Alva work in silence, swiftly assuming their respective roles. Even after completing every preparation she can, Voimestina says nothing more. She simply positions herself behind Alva and stands guard. She will protect Alva and fight for her decisions. In turn, Alva handles everything else, pointing Voimestina toward the path forward. Just as it's always been. We're so close. Chat, we're so close. We're so close to finishing 1.5. And then we have to wait a week for part 2. Peacock's Tale. The experiment is inconclusive and the story is not yet over. And we're fighting Igla, which is to be expected. A flare of light that cuts across the sky. Void Mestina is the strongest doll in the world. Inside the laboratory. Aside from the shrill alarm looming endlessly, the only sounds are the low hum of operating machinery and the soft tapping of Alva's fingers striking the keyboard. On the screen, a progress bar crawls forward at an agonizing pace, as if racing against time itself. Every second seems unbearably long.
次からはこんな無茶な作戦はこれっきりだ。
保証はできないけど努力するよ。
Yeah, this was really risky.
この方法が通用するのも多分今回だけ。次捕まったらメンタルを直接破壊されるだろうね。
次があればな。
They could have done that this time. No promises, though. It's like, I promise nothing. I say that surprisingly more often than you would think, chat. The phrase, I promise nothing.
あなたがいるから大丈夫だよ。
ヘレナが待ってる。
終わったらすぐに迎えに行こう。
Alva's gaze is focused and intent. Even as she speaks to Void Mestina, her eyes remain locked at the progress bar. Her fingers dance rapidly across the keyboard, as if playing an impassioned piece of music. Boom! Suddenly, at this critical moment, a thunderous explosion erupts from outside the door, so loud it drowns out even the blaring alarm. The laboratory walls shudder, as if struck by an earthquake. Alva's hands pause for less than half a second before calmly resuming her work. Unlike last time, Alva did not give Chilovik a chance to self-destruct. She could not destroy the data in the computer or wipe the hard drives. There is far too much intelligence here that they need, including the true, detailed files of Project Eden. Void Mestina raises her head. She gazes through the laboratory door, through the long corridor beyond, and into the distance. Void Mestina says it calmly, as if stating something utterly trivial. She racks the bolt and grips a high polymer vibrating blade stripped from a marionette doll. Alva does not turn around, but she feels the faint movement of air behind her. Soundlessly, Void Mestina's figure vanishes from the laboratory. In the corridor, dust and smoke slowly disperse, revealing a graceful silhouette. Igla calmly strides through the wreckage left by the explosion, as though out for a leisurely stroll. Her suit remains perfectly pressed, her high heels click crisply against the rubble. Behind her follows a fully armed elite unit. Igla comes to a halt, lightly straightening her cuff. Her gaze settles ahead, on Void Mestina, who is standing like an unbreakable bulwark, blocking the way to the lab. Igla's voice is soft as velvet, yet carries undeniable force. She inclines her head slightly, as if greeting an old friend. But after only a few steps, she stops once more. None of the guards behind her are human soldiers. All of them are marionette dolls directly under Igla's command, each personally selected and modified by her, capable of making short work of an ordinary tactical squad. Igla stands on the doorway, her gaze cold and sharp like a blade. And before her, on the road leading to the laboratory, that familiar figure blocks her path once again. This alone is reason enough for her to stop. Void Mestina does not respond. She gently sets the assault rifle in her hands down against the wall, then retrieves two long blades from her waist, gripping one in each hand. After their previous clash, both she and Igla know full well that conventional firearms are meaningless against tactical dolls of their caliber. Igla watches Void Mestina's movements, her lips curling into a smile. She lifts a hand lightly, signaling the unit behind her to halt. Igla steps forward, her movements fluid and elegant, like a ballerina taking center stage. Her right hand brushes the slender rapier at her waist. Her left draws the silver and gold pistol, only to return it to its holster a moment later.
私たちの対話に重火器は不粋。
She holsters the pistol and calmly draws the rapier from her waist. Under the lights, the blade gleams with a cold luster.
ようやく全体像を把握できました。
Her voice remains gentle. It carries a peculiar note of admiration.
アルバさんの作戦には驚かされました。まさか私に捕まるのが計画のうちだったとは。結果的に彼女を機密に触れさせてしまった。アルバさんがデータを盗む間、あなたはそれを援護する。
Igla lickly flicks her rapier, tracing a graceful arc through the air.
その大胆さ、驚嘆に値します。反逆正体は確かにその名にたがわる精鋭アルバさんには後ほど謝罪させていただきます。
Voimastina remains silent. She lowers her center of gravity slightly and shifts into an optimal combat stance. Her wolf eye is running at high speed, analyzing Igla's every movement and possible lines of attack.
その沈黙、賛同と捉えてもよろしいですか？私たちは敵対する定めにありますが、あなたやアルバさんには敬意を表したいと思います。
Igla's tone is earnest, yet a dangerous glint flashes in her eyes.
しかし、職務は全うせねばなりません。あなた方を見逃すわけにはいきません。お嬢様やジラードグループの未来、そして楽園計画は何より優先されます。
She raises her rapier and points it at Voimastina menacingly.
データのダウンロード、あとどれくらいかかりそうですか？5分、それとも10分。
Igla studies Voimastina's reaction closely, though Voimastina remains utterly stoic and unresponsive.
なるほど。急がなければならないようですね。
She steps forward, the sound of her high heels striking the floor crisp and clear.
ボイマスティナさん、無礼をお許しください。そろそろ対話を切り上げさせていただきます。
無駄話が多い。
Voimastina finally speaks, her comment brief and blunt. Igla lets out a soft chuckle. The warmth in her eyes vanishes, replaced by icy focus.
では、言葉ではなく行動で示しましょう。
She bends her knees and assumes the on-guard position in fencing.
アルバさんを全力で阻止させていただきます。
Wow! As expected, she gets her own theme. Just like a Dartur.
たわいないわね。現着。
If only we had Voimastina at this time. Oh, this is Voimastina's theme.
ご命令を。
Which makes me wish we had Voimastina for this fight.
注意。
It's so fitting. If it's really her theme.
数えなさい。
Was it in Deep Oblivion? Man, that feels like so long ago.
立ってろ。
Alright, well. Oh. How anticlimactic.
私が役所よ。
Oh, we have to kill everyone.
私
Ah, I see. Naruhodo. It wasn't just Igla. And, we're not close enough to anyone. Fuck. Can we hit you? Yes.
脅威を排除する。任務了解。タクティカルモード起動。
Sure, that works. Low battery? God damn it. We were just getting to the good part. Well, good thing I have the battery pack always at close hand and the wires. So we just rectify this problem right away. Like so. Alright, so you're here, you're here, you're here, and you're here. Okay, I don't care. I don't care. Nothing you could say or do could make me care. Bye. Can I hit you from this distance? Yes. Yes, I can. Bye. And, you're gone. The clash of metal on metal echoes through the empty corridor, like a piece of meticulously composed music. Every thrust of Igla's blade is graceful and dazzling, as though she is dancing a waltz rather than fighting for her life. Her rapier traces perfect arcs throughout the air. Though her movements are filled with flourishes, each strike is measured to the millimeter, leaving no opening at all. Void Mestina answers with steady, precise blocks. The twin blades in her hands become extensions of her body, every motion stripped of excess, just like her personality. The battle between two top-tier tactical dolls has long surpassed the bounds of ordinary combat, resembling an intense performance instead. Igla's voice remains mild and velvety, yet every word carries a razor-sharp killing intent. She speaks even as she threads her attack through nearly impossible angles, the rapier seeming almost alive as it hunts for the tiniest gap in Void Mestina's defense. Her high heels strike the floor in an elegant rhythm, each step part of a dance, each step carrying lethal threat. Void Mestina does not respond. All of her attention is focused on the fight. Her body is already covered in wounds. Her combat suit is slashed open in several places, exposing synthetic components beneath the seep of biometric blood. Even so, her movements remain precise and efficient, without the slightest hesitation or retreat. No sooner does Igla finish speaking than she abruptly accelerates her assault. The rapier leaves afterimages in the air, every strike viciously angled at points that are hardest for Void Mestina to defend. At the same time, the few remaining marionette dolls behind her join the fray, attempting to break through Void Mestina's defenses from the flanks. Void Mestina's wolf eye flashes. In the next instant, she twists her body in an almost impossible angle, narrowly evading Igla's deadliest thrust. Simultaneously, her long blade sweeps sideways, cleaving a charging marionette doll cleanly in half. Igla inclines her head slightly in genuine admiration. As if to validate her words, the long-bladed Void Mestina's left hand emits an ominous sound of metal fatigue during the next block. With a sharp crack, the blade snaps in two. The broken edge spins away and embeds itself deep into the wall. Void Mestina glances expressionlessly at the broken weapon in her hand, then casually discards it and grips the remaining blade with both hands. Her stance grows slightly constrained, but her gaze remains as firm as ever, without the slightest hint of retreat. Igla twirls her blade in a flourish, its cold sheen flashing beneath the lights. Her posture is unhurried, as though she holds complete control over the battle. Void Mestina answers calmly. Her gaze sweeps down the corridor. The marionette doll unit under Igla's command has been almost entirely annihilated, leaving only a few that are barely able to move.
戦績の自慢です。
Igla smiles faintly, her eyes sharpening further.
ですが、ダミーを倒しただけで有頂天になってもらっては困ります。あなたを倒し、アルバさんの元へ向かいます。そしてあなたにはデータベースの一部になっていただきましょう。
Voimastina eyes Igla.
確かにお前は強い。私のようにな。
Igla quirks an eyebrow, a flicker of surprise crossing her eyes.
これはまた独特な自己評価軸ですね。
ショーが私を作った時、私より強い人形はいなかった。お前の性格は最悪だが、私も同じだ。
Voimastina's words are calm and definitive, not boastful. She is merely stating facts.
面白い。私たちが似ているとでも。
A trace of wariness flashes in Igla's eyes as she subtly adjusts her stance, preparing for the next exchange.
いや、忠告だ。
Voimastina lifts a hand to her head and rolls her neck.
最強の人形という肩書きを外した自分に何が残るのか。
Before she gets to the end of the sentence, Voimastina suddenly drops low to evade Igla's threats at an unbelievable angle. The cold glint of the rapier skims just above her head, severing a few strands of hair.
考えるんだな。
ご注意感謝します。ですが、的外れと言わざるを得ません。
Igla's voice remains calm, but an icy edge creeps into her tone. Her movements suddenly accelerate, the rapier transforming into a curtain of silver light that assaults Voimastina from every direction.
私の存在意義は強さではなく、お嬢様への忠誠です。あなたには理解できないと思いますが。
Voimastina strains to block the relentless barrage. Fine cracks spread along her remaining blade. Her movements begin to slow slightly, yet her eyes remain keen as ever. At that moment, a burst of precise gunfire rings out from far end of the corridor. The bullets travel along nearly impossible trajectories through the complex environment, aimed straight at Igla's vitals. Igla reacts instantly. Her rapier arcs flawlessly through the air, knocking the bullets aside with ringing clangs, except for one. A single round pierces her shoulder, punching a hole through her pristine suit. Igla's movement falters for an instant. Disbelief flashes across her eyes before hardening into icy fury.
買い物まで的確な射撃です。
Alva's voice rings out from the end of the corridor, clear and resolute. She stands at a perfect firing position, posture ready, muzzle trained directly on Igla. Without the slightest hesitation, Voimastina turns and sprints down the corridor at extraordinary speed.
させません。
Igla is about to give chase when she notices Alva's muzzle drop slightly, revealing several small devices on the ground, blinking with red light. A chain of explosions erupt, instantly turning the corridor into an inferno. Smoke, debris, and shattered concrete surge from all sides, engulfing Igla in the ruins.
無粋な。
From within the dust comes Igla's cold, restrained voice. With a thunderous clash, piled up rubble is hurled aside with immense force, and her figure slowly emerges. Her suit is coated in dust, her flawless hair slightly disheveled, yet her posture remains immaculate, her murderous gaze sharper than ever. However, when the smoke finally clears, Alva and Voimastina are already gone, vanished around the bend of the corridor.
見事なコンビネーションです。
Igla calmly dusts off her suit and straightens her cuffs. Her movements are unhurried, as though the explosion moments ago was nothing more than a trivial mishap. She touches the communicator at her ear, her voice cold and composed.
総員、限界態勢。目標逃走中。絶対に逃がしてはなりません。施設全体を封鎖してください。
She smooths the wrinkles from her suit, her gaze sharpening like a blade.
お嬢様の勇者となり、型をつけます。
戦闘終了。脅威は全て排除しました。これ
Oh, we got the portrait. Burr, burr. Homunculus. Miracles and the work of mortal hands. We're gonna do it, chat. We're gonna finish before midnight. In the luxurious suite, Zimmerman stands before the full-height window, looking down at the nightscape of Lviv. His fingers drum the window frame lightly, his eyes flashing with apparent anxiety. After a moment's hesitation, he walks over to the sofa and sits down, then produces a specially modified encrypted communicator from his inner pocket. He enters a long, complex password and dials a number. The call connects almost instantly.
シルロビーさん、これはどういうことですか？
おお、いい先生じゃん。何のことかな。
Chilovig's teasing voice comes through the communicator, light and buoyant, as if she's letting him in on some inside joke.
おとぼけはなしでお願いします。私は今、冷静に話せる自信はありません。
怖いな。ちょっと手伝ってあげようと思っただけじゃん。
Her drawl is playful, yet carries a pointed undercurrent.
手伝い。私が動く前に目標の一人を研究所から遠ざけたことがですが、ジャジャ馬のオルフェルーネよりあの第三世代人形こそ最優先で始末すべきだ。
The line suddenly goes quiet. Only Chilovig's faint breathing can be heard.
私に楽園計画への投資をすると申し出たのはあなたです。良い関係を築けたと思ったのですが、
You got played.
後で返すとは。
で、作戦は成功したの？
何？失敗を招いた張本人がどの口で？
じゃあオルフェルーネはまだ生きてるんだ。
Zimmerman is suddenly at a loss for words. From the other end comes an intentionally exaggerated peal of laughter.
イグラがいなかったのに世間知らずのお嬢様一人殺せなかったんだ。
Chilovig's voice suddenly turns sharp, like a blade scraping across glass.
じゃあイグラがいたらあんたの手下を全員ミンチになってたよね。なのに私がイグラを引き離したことを責めるわけ？バカじゃないの。
Zimmerman is left speechless by the barrage of insults. After venting her anger, Chilovig smoothly slips back into her usual teasing tone.
せっかく時間を稼いであげたんだからちゃんと有効利用しようね。いい先生。私に付きまとう暇があったら失敗した原因を探った方がいいんじゃない？
Chilovig's voice suddenly drops into a soft whisper, which sounds more menacing than any shout.
それは。
ジラードはもう泥船も同然。だからあんたに接触した。あんたは投資してるんじゃなくて投資させてもらってるの。立場をわきまえてね。私たちの信頼に応えてほしいな。じゃないとどうなるかわからないよ。私は気まぐれだからね。
The call cuts off abruptly, leaving only a burst of harsh static. Zimmerman stares at the communicator, his expression unreadable. He takes a deep breath, slips it back into his inner pocket, and sinks into thought. With ample personnel and combat resources, attacking a research institute located in the White Zone should have been effortless. So why did the mission still fail? Could someone have been obstructing his actions all along? A firm knock at the door interrupts Zimmerman's thoughts. Without waiting for a response, the door opens on its own. A tall man in military uniform strides inside. Zimmerman is about to erupt, but when he recognizes the man, he swallows his anger at once and puts on the flawless professional smile from his campaign posters.
アポなしで失礼します。ズイーマン。
The soldier's tone is level and detached, devoid of any real apology and more of a statement of fact.
副部長とイベントに出席されたはずじゃ。その副部長の命令で参りました。いい、もう時間は残りわずかです。 ジェラードグループは風前の灯火ですが、賭けに出る資本が残されています。明日の実験が順調に進めば、楽園、あなたは大変聡明な方です。ロレン政府及び軍内部にも多くの支持者がいます。しかし、今回の件でファルベングループが誠意を示すことができなければ、この関係を見直す必要があるかもしれません。そのつもりで。わかりました。
Zimmerman finally mutters a reply. The confidence in his voice clearly replaced by distress.
明日までにあの第三世代人形をお届けいたします。
The officer nods and turns to leave the room without another word. Once the door closes, Zimmerman's smile vanishes instantly, his face twisting into a grotesque expression. He snatches up a nearby wine glass and hurls it violently against the wall. Chilovik ends the call and looks at the small figure behind her.
おかえり、お花ちゃん。
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Helena trembles uncontrollably as she stares wide-eyed at the woman before her. She tries to make the floating spheres protect her, but they aren't responding at all.
あれ、誰がこれをあんたにあげたのか忘れたのかな。
Chilovik produces a button and presses it lightly. The spheres immediately dim and drop lifelessly to the ground.
節郎さんには一本取られたけど、こっちにはまだ切り札がある。そのおかげであんたを見つけられたんだよね。
Chilovik, just who are you? Helena's voice is barely a whisper, but Chilovik can still make out the words. Someone will come save me.
誰が？あの二人の人形？
Chilovik bursts into laughter.
あいつらは自分たちを優先してあんたをくっさい下水道に置いてったんだよ。なのにまだ信じてるんだ。はっ、ウケる。あんたがそんなに大事なら今ここにあんたがいるのはおかしいよね。それにイグラム怒らせちゃったし、今頃ズタボロにされてるんじゃないかな。まあそんなことは置いといて、さあ役目を果たす時間だよ。あんたはこのために生まれたんだから、準備に取り掛からないと。
Faced with this absurd and bizarre woman, Helena's body continues to shake uncontrollably, but her fear doesn't last long, because her consciousness soon succumbs to darkness. Alright, how many... Alright, we got 2 bonus nodes. All these complicated paths ultimately lead to the same conclusion. Jeez. Maybe I'm missing the context from GFL 1, so I'm not sure what these apocalyptic implications are. I just know this is bad fucking news. Bye. Paradise's goal has always been to create a fully immune individual to serve as a key to the relics. But we've already established that Helena is not a fully immune individual. In fact, I think she's like the reverse. She needs radiation particles to function normally. If she's in a green zone or a white zone that has no radiation particles, she actually gets sick. So this that's it's not even quasi fully immune, it's like reverse immune. She needs the juice to go on. The absence of the bad juice means she gets sick. So in that regard, I'm kind of confused.
行動開始。時間に注意。あなたの罪を数えなさい。脅威を排除する。身が立ってろ。私が終わらせる。みんなのために。
And we've already established that throughout this entire thing, that Chilovate kind of has a great hatred slash inferiority complex towards Samantha. The relics are the source of all the world's collapse radiation. Yeah, that's the Balkan Island incident that they keep referring to, right? I guess in the sense that, like, you're right. In the sense she's fully immune by absorbing the collapsed particles. But also, what happens when there's no more particles to absorb? So yeah, that's Igla in the corner over there. That's Chilavig, Alva, Voimistina, Orphalune. I guess Voimistina's mech, and Helena, unfortunately, that she looks to be in rough shape. Arslo. We cleared all this. We got our rewards. I've cleaned out the shop. I'm just getting analysis blueprints. Because I'm going to need that for Voimistina's gun if I can get enough particles or collapse the cubes. The cubes. Give me the cube. Like, how many do I have? Like, I still need 3 more to finish this off. I have 135 because it converted the Doritos. So 135 plus 69. Nice. So that's like 204. So I'm guaranteed Voimistina, but getting her gun will be kind of iffy. Depending on the outcome of Voimistina rolls. Anyways. We did it. We finished Corpusant 1.5 just in time. Don't forget, if you live in North America, the clocks are turning forward by an hour tonight. So don't forget about that. I should probably adjust my wristwatch for that soon, but anyways. Thank you for joining me for another bout of Girls Frontline 2 Exilium. And just as a reminder that next week, 1 week from today, I will be doing my 5-year anniversary stream, and doing Corpusant Part 2 will probably be part of that, so be sure to join in. And I should probably check, when does this, 3 days. We got 3 days, alright. Happy 5, yeah. I have gone beyond the average life expectancy of a VTuber. Can you fucking believe it? Part of me doesn't, but hey. That's why we're celebrating, right? Anyways, I've rambled for long enough. Thank you all for joining me through Girls Frontline 2 Exilium. Raid 2. Yep. Copy that. Let's go raid... Who should we raid? Maybe I should hide this. Take a closer look at who we can raid. Raid. Who could use the views? You know what? Let's go raid Darkson. We haven't raided Darkson in a long time. They are playing through Resident Evil Requiem. Anyways, good night everyone, and remember to stay prime. And join me next week for my 5-year anniversary. Bye bye.